Hello again, class, and welcome to the Academic Argument Essay number 2 video, along with Arguments of Fact, our readings from pages 151 to 166. I always try to relate the readings to the essay that you're working on at the time and/or essays you'll be working on in the future. All of our rhetorical analysis readings I apply to everything that we do because for argument essay number 2, it's okay if you want to start with rhetorical analysis of a particular source, maybe one of the essays you've read in the book, and then respond to one of the questions in the book, or respond to the idea of stereotyping and identity and causes and effects. Again, so rhetorical analysis will be a part of that. Everything you write for this class is academic argument. So we're always carefully structuring our research, looking at ethos, logos, pathos, kairos. Again, bringing in Rogerian argument, bringing in Toulmin argument, and making sure we include qualifiers and warrants and things of that nature. So all of these readings are helping us better structure our arguments by giving us details and examples. And then the essays we read are meant to help us better understand how these writers are using those strategies so that we can also use those strategies in our own essay organization and construction and revision and, and critical thinking strategies as well. So let's start on page 151. Again, arguments of fact are essential because they're logos. To have successful ethos, to have successful pathos, and to have successful kairos, there must be logic behind it. There must be some sort of factual evidence to make the argument, the attempt at persuasion successful. As we know, if something is solely based on emotions with no facts, there's a very good chance that it could be propaganda. And we should be very, very wary of arguments that do not have any factual evidence. So one of the most important parts of your academic arguments, the carefully structured research, is to make sure that you're bringing in facts and examples and details. Now, as we've discussed in previous videos, you should be thinking about culture, right? Our behaviors, our actions, our ideologies, right? Essentially, how is stereotyping and how are stereotypes playing a role in our kind of creation and reception and in some ways evaluation of identity, right? So make sure that you have examples, make sure that you have facts. And one of the best places to go to maybe if you need to bring in another example, go back to your pre-writing, go back to your outline. You saw in all of my sample pre-writings so far this semester that I've shared with you, I try to write as many facts and examples down. And then when I go back, I start thinking about, okay, what ideas do I want to put in which paragraphs? So in addition to constructing the essays with your own facts and examples and details and personal experiences and anecdotes, it's also important to recognize what a seriously important role. It's important to recognize what a seriously important role. Sorry about that tongue twister, right? And that's the thing about speaking. You can go back and change it, but once you say it, it's there. So again, I could stop the video and restart it, but I don't think my mistake was that big of a deal. I think if anything, I'll use it as a teachable moment. That's the good thing about writing. You can revise things before you submit them. You can read them over and think about them and make changes before you submit it for a grade. Choose your words wisely, right? Perfect example, especially when you're recording something, right? Essentially, you want to make sure that we recognize how important it is in writing to revise. Because if you turn something in that's illogical or unclear, you had the opportunity to fix it. You had the opportunity to revise. So that's one of the big differences between speaking and writing is that with writing, you can fix things. You can go back, you can revise, you can erase. In speaking, you can't take it back. right? And so even though mine was a careless grammatical sentence construction slip up, I didn't say anything hurtful, right? I can take it back unless I want to start the video over and erase it, right? Now, do I think my tongue twister, if you would, um, damages my ethos profoundly, so I should stop this video and start over? No, I think it's important that you all recognize that I'm not perfect and that sometimes I have to revise things too. You'll notice sometimes I make mistakes on the Canvas pages, and that's okay. Nobody's perfect. It's illogical to demand perfection out of people. Just remember, when you submit something for a grade, make sure you revise it, right? And fix whatever might be illogical or unclear or grammatically incorrect so that you can put yourself in a position to get the best grade possible when it is, drum roll, evaluated. So, understanding arguments of fact, I think we understand the seriousness of how you have to avoid propaganda, and your appeals to kairos and pathos need to be grounded in logic and factual evidence. Specifically, that leads me to the sources. When you're bringing your sources in, make sure you're quoting from your sources and you're citing those quotes and you're citing the sources in the works cited. Right? For academic argument essay number 1, if you made some mistakes, let's learn from them and let's avoid making the same mistakes again. Nothing changes. It's always going to be the same way to cite a source, the same way to cite a source, right, with the work cited, and the same way to introduce the source with signal phrases and commas, with complete sentences and colons. So that's the cool thing about this class. We're moving forward into the second half of the semester, and at this point, we have a lot of strategies to help us craft our academic arguments, right? And yes, we will continue to add strategies, but the majority of the structure is there. Set your sources up, right? Quote correctly, put quotation marks around other people's words, cite the source in the parentheses before the period, and then make sure you correctly enter the source's details in the works cited page. Review the past videos, review my examples, review the pages in the book. For every essay we write from here on out, MLA format is going to be exactly the same as it was for academic argument essay number 1. So, as the book continues along, I'm on page 154. They talk about hypotheses, tentative and plausible statements of facts whose merits need to be examined more closely, right? Hypothetical arguments come from a hypothesis, and they become an academic argument when you support your claims with facts, examples, details, and carefully structured research. As you're developing your factual argument, you want to keep in mind the idea that you want to identify the issue that's under consideration. The issue for your first essay was, right, vegetarianism and the environment, and the role, right, a vegetarian diet plays in limiting global warming and climate change. The issue for your next essay is identity and stereotyping, and the role that stereotypes or stereotyping plays in our culture and society when we examine various types of identity, right? So again, once you understand the issue, and I think that everybody at this point has a pretty good idea of what you're supposed to be writing on, and you have options for this essay. It's not just one particular topic, right? Um, so the key is to then start to do your research, as we did for academic argument essay number 1. And I think the easiest place to go is the library database and go to opposing viewpoints, click on browse issues, and then you have various issues that you can then choose from, in which the website has set up all the viewpoints for you on that issue, in addition to the initial viewpoint, which kind of gives you an overview of the issue as well. So hopefully by using the library database and using reliable sources. Again, you can use Google, you can use Google Scholar, but pay attention to the details, right, in this book when we read about the chapter earlier on evaluating and using sources. And let's make sure we're using credible sources. If you have any questions, as always, let me know, and I'd be happy to help guide you in the process of finding your secondary sources and using them. But the easiest thing to do is to go to the library database, opposing viewpoints, browse issues, and then choose from the issues there, or just type in under search the subject or topic that you want to focus on. So, thank you for your time and patience. Let me know if you have any questions.